I'd like to talk with you for a few minutes about research, writing a research paper, what constitutes effective research and research writing. I'd like to talk a bit about Turabian formatted papers and proper style of footnoting, table of contents, things like this to help you out as you work on your research project. I provided for you a sample Turabian formatted paper, which I have in my hand here. I'm looking at the title page, very standard issue title page for Turabian, and there are spacings that work with that, 2 inches from the top, 3 lines, then a line, 3 lines, then a research paper submitted to, and then you follow through that format for the title page. I think that's pretty straightforward. Just be aware of capitalizations and things of that nature in your title. Table of contents is very important for a research paper because it'll guide the reader and it'll guide the writer into having a format for the paper, giving a clue as to the direction of the paper, and all of the headings that are used in your table of contents will be used throughout the paper. I always like reading a paper or a book that has a number of headings in it, so I can see proportionality. I can see, okay, well, now we've got a section on this, and there's 2 subsections, and it's very clear by your headings. And that's all based off of your table of contents. So everything you have in your table of contents, the pagination, all needs to be parallel, and it needs to fit with what's actually in the paper, so that the page numbers match up and things like that. So the table of contents will include your introduction, the body of your paper, your conclusion, what page that is on, bibliography, and if needed, an appendix. Okay, I'm looking at the first page of the body of the paper, and there are a 2-inch margin down to the title, and then 4 lines down to introduction, and you can see there's margins on each side. I think 1.5 inches on the left and 1 inch on the right is actually standard. It may be listed as 1.25 inches on each side on the sample, but 1.5 inches on the left, 1 inch on the right is good, or 1.25 inches on each side. 1/2 inch indent. Make sure that you indent all your paragraphs. Some students will just forget to indent a few paragraphs, and I never quite know why. So make sure you do that. As you can see, footnotes at the bottom of page 1. Footnotes Turabian formatted, these are inserted through your Microsoft Word software. You click on reference and then click insert footnote, and it'll put it down there and create a footnote line for you. You don't have to do any measuring like I did back in college and graduate school, but it's done for you in the software. But just realize the first line of a footnote is indented. The second line goes all the way to the left-hand side. So indent the first line, and then let the next lines go to the left-hand margin. Your footnotes are single-spaced, but then there is an extra space between each footnote. So footnote 1, however many lines that is, that's single-spaced. Then you're going to leave a full space, and see, you can just add those later on. When your paper's done, go in and put your cursor in there after the first footnote, hit return, and you'll create a full space between each footnote unit. So just be careful with that, with proper formatting of footnotes. How to do Turabian footnotes, that's very clear in the Turabian literature and the most recent edition of Turabian. But you can see in this sample paper a number of examples of that. When you do footnoting, the superscript number, when you click insert, or you click reference, insert footnote, okay, that footnote number goes after the period, after the final punctuation mark in the sentence. It doesn't go before the period. And you'll see that from the sample. Looking through the paper at more footnotes, make sure you understand how to use IBID in footnotes, IBID period, and how to use page numbers for that. Because you don't, if you're using like an author like Maggie Gallagher, I'm looking on page 2, you use her several times. You don't create the entire footnote over and over again, but you use IBID to shorten that. Again, as you're looking through this sample paper, I'm on page 3, and now I'm looking at a block quote here. Make sure you indent the entire block quote and you single space the block quote. Okay? Just make sure it's indented, single spaced. If you want to fully right and left hand justify your paper, that's fine, although this sample paper has not done that. So just make a note of that. Other things on footnotes. Make sure you don't just stick footnotes here and there. I need to know where the note is. Sometimes students will write a paragraph and then they put a footnote at the end. They write another paragraph, put a footnote at the end. And I'll comment, I'll go, where's the note? I don't know if you're footnoting the whole paragraph, or just the last sentence, or just the idea. I can't tell if you've lifted the whole paragraph out of some source and did a little rewrite and then stuck a footnote on it. See, I need to know where the note is when you write a research paper, and that's part of good research writing. You're not just stringing together a whole bunch of, here's some great stuff from this source and that source, let's just pull all this together and line it up and I got a 10-page paper. That's really not effective research writing. It can be effective research and good sources, but you need to study and read, and then you come up with your ideas, you create the structure of your paper, and then you write most of it out in your own words. And you'll only footnote or cite those things that are absolutely choice, unique to an author, or maybe you're citing that author in some kind of quote with parentheses or quotation marks. Okay? So most of your writing should be yours. I don't like excessive footnoting in a paper because that kind of tells me that you're really not pulling it all together and owning the material. Because once you've studied from a variety of sources and you learn new ideas, if those new ideas are in several of the sources, well, it's generic information and it's now your idea. You just learned it, now it's yours. Go ahead and write it, and don't be afraid to write it. But just cite those choice moments, okay? And I can't tell you how many footnotes a page that would be, but if you're having 5, 6, 7, 8 footnotes a page, 6 or 7, that's getting to be too many, because you ought to be distilling it out into your own and making it your own. So be bold, feel free to do that. And write authorial lead-ins when you do have a footnote. That helps the reader a great deal. You don't want to just say, have a whole sentence be in quotes and then put a footnote on it, but say, as Gray mentions, and then do this. See, that's an authorial lead-in. You know, Ryrie notes, da-da-da. Or you could even say, as one author notes, and then cite it, and then I can look at the footnote, go to the bottom, oh, I see, that's Dr. Gumball or whoever it is that you've cited. Okay? It's so important about doing good research, effective research, using a variety of sources, internet, book-based. Your deepest content is going to be in the commentaries, especially if you're studying theological things or a number of other subjects. But just keep that in mind. Use a broad array of sources when you're studying. Master it, learn it, make it your own, create your paper in each of its sections, intro, body, and conclusion. Your intro is going to introduce what's going to happen in the paper. There really shouldn't be footnotes in your introduction because you're just introducing what the paper is going to do. Your conclusion will then summarize the findings of the paper. You won't have any footnotes in your conclusion either because that's simply a very wooden, vanilla, here's what we did this, then that, and here's the solution. The end. Okay? Make your conclusion very vanilla, very wooden, because that's proper for a research paper, a doctoral dissertation, or a master's thesis. I'm hoping that the sample paper that you hopefully have in your possession will encourage you and help you see kind of how to work with these, how to write authorial lead-ins. Make sure that when you write and you do any type of writing that you have a topic sentence for each paragraph. Okay? Topic sentence. Don't start a paragraph with a quote from somebody. There should be a topic sentence where you are creating a sentence that's going to summarize what's going on in the paragraph. Okay? That's what a topic sentence is. That's how it works. In the conclusion here on pages 8 and 9, there's no footnotes, because there really shouldn't be. Getting to the bibliography page on page 10, I've got several examples on 10 and following, how to do Turabian formatted bibliographic references, and this will help you a great deal toward that. In the bibliography, it's only the first line that is to the left-hand side of the margin, and the subsequent lines are all indented, as you can see. It's the opposite of a footnote reference. In the footnote, you indent the first line, and then the subsequent lines go over to the left-hand side. Okay. Turabian, lover or hater, we all have to wrestle with that format. I'm not super picky on it. I'm not going to measure things. I'm not going to make sure every little dot is just right, but I want you to learn to do this type of research and writing and to express it in a Turabian kind of way. It's the best looking way. I like this far better than APA or MLA, but it's just because in my discipline, which is theology and Bible, we use Turabian. History departments use Turabian, but others use other formats. So Lord willing, I've covered it all, or as much as I can, in these 10 or 11 minutes we've spent together here. May God bless you in your research. Be thorough. Get an early start. Enjoy the journey. Enjoy the process of producing something you'll be proud of. It'll look professional, and your professor will enjoy reading it and learning from it. God bless you.